YouTube friends, today I'm going to be sharing with you why I love early Barbra Streisand. I love her all throughout her career, but that's the part of her career that I really love the most. I started out hearing her first time on the Ed Sullivan Show back in the early 60s when I was a little boy, and I became an instant fanatic. And she's been great for years. She's #1 female star in history, and she's the highest paid musical act in history now that she's 75. But back then she was better. And I'll be talking about some of the things of why I think she was better back then. One of the reasons was, back in the 60s, before she became so mainstream like she became in the 70s, she was really the territory of the gays. The gays just loved her. And because of that, they welcomed a more exaggerated and theatrical type of performance, which I think is wonderful and she's so good at. She could also take risks, and she was a lot less predictable back then. In this speech, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about why I think she's such a remarkable singer. Now, one of the things that singles out this early period for me is that the accompaniments in the early 60s were just much more beautiful to me. The horns, if you listen to this piece I'm playing today, you'll hear there's a riff with the horns that's very 1960s. I'm going to be playing C'est Bon from her Color Me Barbara album. And in this piece, C'est Bon, by the way, means it's so good in French. In this piece, the pianist is doing these arabesques up and down the keyboard all the time while she is singing these long legato phrases. What does legato mean? Well, it's an opera phrase that means that you maximize the vocal line but still have the room to do the consonants for words. It's the most singing but still get the most meaning of the words. A lot of singers today, I just can't understand what their words are, or else they're singing and you can understand the words, but they're singing like Mary had a little lamb, very staccato, because so much of the music today is just rhythmical. Words are so important to Barbra. That's one of the things that's great about her. One of the key tricks that she uses in this performance is at the end of a phrase, she will say like would. She will go down on the last syllable. Or dia, almost very accented Brooklynese accent, but with the dia, 2 words instead of dear. You can understand it better, and it's very quintessentially Barbra. Another thing that you will notice in this performance is that Barbra does not love the beat. She sings off of the beat more often than not. She sings very conversationally. And because of this, it really brings the music to life. One of the key things that you will notice in this video that I'll play of C'est Bon, number one, the camera is not moving all around like they do nowadays, because singers can't hold your interest. They have to create interest. She holds your interest. The camera's just zeroing in on her. But she also doesn't have any mic. Almost all singers from the 60s till now, unless they have one of these little things, they have this handheld mic that, of course, maximizes their voice. Well, her voice was so strong they could put the mic way up here, and it really freed her up, because if you look at her mouth while she sings, she's very expressive with her mouth and her hands. Barbra's hands are a miracle. She's got these gorgeous hands. They're like a hand model's hands. It's these long nails. And she doesn't overdo it. She uses them very subtly to accent the words. Just watch what she does. In this performance, she's got on a simple white dress, just a little bit of cleavage, no leg. And yet, what is she doing? She is oozing this classy sexuality the whole time. She is very, very sultry. In fact, when she starts the bit that you'll be seeing, she's actually singing the first part lying on her side, which is not easy to do, and she's singing very beautifully. Barbara has always had a Stradivarius in her throat, but particularly so back then. Now, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that were different about her voice in the 60s. If you listen closely to Barbara's performances in the 60s, and then from like the mid-70s on, later on she had this very fast vibrato. And it's very beautiful. I really like it. But I think her more natural way was how she sang when she first started out singing, which is more relaxed, a little bit slower. And I find for my purposes, it was more expressive of the emotions. Also, she's always had a nasal placement to her voice. She has a large nose, but it's one of the things she didn't want to have a nose job because it might ruin her sound. But it was much less nasal after the 70s. The early performances from the 60s, her voice definitely had a much stronger nasal quality. And I liked it because it was more quintessentially Barbara. It was unique. Another thing that you will listen for in this performance is not only is her high notes wonderful, but she's got these wonderful, throaty, rich, earthy lower register that's so perfect for the lyrics. In this performance, I want you to look for her words, her hands, her hand movements, what she does with her hands, the distinction of her voice from this period as opposed to later on with the slower vibrato, and just how absolutely beautiful her singing was. Now let's go to this performance of C'est Si Bon from the Color Me Barbara, her second Emmy Award winning performance.
C'est si bon, so I say it to you, like the French people do. Because it's oh so good. Every word, every sigh, every kiss, dear, leads to only one thought, and the thought is this, dear. Say, nothing else can replace just your slightest embrace. And if you only would be mine for the rest of my days, I shall whisper this phrase, my darling, say
Thank you for listening to my little lecture speech on early Barbara. Maybe it might educate you to listen to her in new ways and enjoy her more, and perhaps take up listening to this period of her singing when I think she was at her best, and you may not even be familiar with. Thank you very much.